I'm conducting an experiment. I have a goal of dyeing pine cones red for the holidays, to use in holiday decorations. And I've been researching how to do that, and I've read about 2 techniques, so I'm going to try both of them and we'll see what works. The first technique is I'm going to use RIT dye, and for the other one, I'm going to use red food coloring. So I have 2 little trays here, and in each one, I'm putting in about a half a gallon of hot water-ish. You want to make sure that there's enough to cover the pine cones, but at the same time, I want the color to be as red as possible. And so in this one, I'm going to pour in, I'm going to do the whole bottle. Again, this is an experiment. We'll see how this comes out. Woo! Oh, that's pretty. I'll have to show you that. All right, I'm going to put that in there. Put that aside. And then in the other one, I'm putting the red food coloring. Ooh, that's pretty too. You might want to wear gloves. Note to self. Looks like a murder in my kitchen. Okay, so the other part of the experiment is in each one of these bins, I'm going to use pine cones that I picked up outside that I have not treated. The only thing I did is I removed the pine needles, and I'm also going to use pine cones that I purchased at the craft store, just to see which does better, the natural pine cones or the craft store pine cones, recognizing also that you may not have access to pine cones in your garden like I do. So in each one, I'm gonna put 3 store-boughts. This is so fun. I feel like I'm back in school in science class. All right, so 3 store-bought, 3 natural in the red food coloring bin, and then 3 natural, and they're easy to tell apart because pine cones in my neighborhood don't look like this. This is cool. Okay, so then I'm going to take my tongs and I'm just going to stir them around. Try not to spill that all over the island. Not a good idea. Okay. Stir that one around. Stir that one around. I have no idea how this is going to end up, and that's part of the fun. That's why it's called an experiment. And then I am going to cover these. Move this. So I'm just going to cover them with a tray overnight. Yeah, and I'll leave them overnight. I'll probably come out, before I go to bed, and just give them a little turn and wait and see what they look like in the morning. So stay tuned for the results of our grand pine cone dyeing experiment. Okay, these have been soaking overnight. Looking pretty good. So I'm gonna pull them out. Show you how I do that. My tongs. So this is the batch of these pine cones are the ones that were soaking in the RIT dye, and these were soaking in the food coloring. I think they're all looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do now, we'll put the food coloring ones on this end. I'm just going to put them on a paper towel. I've got them on a foil-lined baking sheet. Okay, so I'm gonna go clean up this mess, and then look at that. So there are the food dyed pine cones and the RIT dyed pine cones. Let's give them a while to dry, and we'll check back and see what they look like. All right, it's time for the results of the great pine cone dyeing experiment. Here are the results. So you can decide if you want to try this at home or not bother. These are the pine cones that were soaked in the RIT dye. And you can see just a very subtle red. It's very subtle. Okay, let me compare. So this is a before and that's after. See that? Before, after. Okay. This is the batch that was in the food coloring. This batch came out a little lighter and more pink. Not as red, but still an interesting shade. If I had to do it again, I'd probably use 2 bottles of this to get a darker color. These are more pink. And here's a before and after. So, was it worth it? It's a lot of work, honestly. But you do get a pretty reddish pine cone that still looks natural, and I like that. We're all learning here. Thanks for hanging out with me. My Maine Garden's Kitchen. Talk to you later.